Alright everyone, this is Thomas. I'm going to be doing my review of the things that I like about the LG Watch Sport and a couple things I don't. Before I get started, I want to say this is written for, I am going to make the video publicly available, but the intended audience of this video is a group of my friends, some of whom have experience with wearables. Some of them use a smartwatch, some of them use like a fitness tracker, and some of them use no wearable at all. None of them are familiar specifically with Android Wear. So some of the features that I'm describing are just software things about Android Wear that I like, and I know that some of those people can do the same things. I'm just telling them, sort of the complete story of why I like this watch in particular, including the hardware and software features. So first things first, I strongly considered the Asus ZenWatch 3 for a long time, but I'm really glad that I waited and got the LG Watch Sport. I really like some of the features that it has that the Asus ZenWatch wouldn't. For example, this watch is TPU, which means is a, rubberized plastic. So it's water resistant, and of course the watch itself is water resistant. It's IP68, I think. So I can wash my hands with it. I don't worry about sweating at the gym or accidentally spilling some water on my arm. The ZenWatch 3 is beautiful, and it's also water resistant, but the band was made of real leather. And so over time, the sweat would break down that leather, and I wouldn't have liked that. I would either have to change out the band every time I go to the gym, or eventually just buy a new watch band. Neither of those is desirable. I'm also really glad I got this shiny dark blue instead of the gray. I think it looks prettier. So I'm going to represent the things that I like about the watch, mostly pictographically. I think about the things that the watch can do with relation to an Android phone, sort of as like pipes, like connections between them. So I want you to think of these as pipes. So first pipe is Bluetooth. Let me get that focused on there a little bit better. So the Bluetooth features of the phone, when you're playing music or a phone call on the Android phone, the watch is able to function as a speaker. It's a pretty decent sounding speaker. Sounds about as good as most smartphones. I just don't know why anyone would ever want to do that. Where the watch shines, though, is in the music. The watch itself, let's see if I can get this set where read that a little bit better. The watch itself, after the operating system and every app I wanted to install on it, still has about 1.5 gigs free. And so the watch can hold that music and then play it on its own speaker or out to a Bluetooth headset. So the thing that I really like about that is I have preloaded like a gym playlist onto the watch, and it can be up to 1.5 gigs, which is a pretty decent size for a gym playlist. And then the watch can play that to a Bluetooth headset, and you can, turn the volume up and down and stop and, next track and all that stuff, and leave the phone in the locker at the gym. And I really love doing that. The next pipe is notifications, and that's a little bit more, I don't know, I guess not really like news to anybody that smartwatches do notifications, but I still feel like it's worth saying because I like those features. So when you get a phone call, a text, or an email, or frankly any notification at all, the phone can push it to the watch, and then the watch has, that information on display for you, and you can, decide whether you want to pull your phone out or not. The other things that it can do that I really like is you can type a short reply. Google in Android Wear 2.0 has put a keyboard on it. Now, of course, you can do the voice dictation, which usually works pretty well. And you wouldn't think that typing on a keyboard on a 1.4-inch screen would be a good experience, but you know what? I am pleasantly surprised at how well it works. Let me demonstrate real quick if I can get this to focus on it. There's the keyboard. I can type, "Hi, how are you?" And then there's a punctuation. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but it does work pretty well. You can also do things like mark a notification as read and dismiss them, and then they'll be dismissed on the phone. So all that stuff goes back to the phone and then goes out into the internet. The thing that I should mention is I talk about this in terms of Bluetooth because I feel like that's like the normal way that a smartwatch connects to the master phone. But it's worth mentioning that with Android Wear 2.0, the watch is a lot more independent. If the phone is connected to the internet somewhere, and the watch is connected to the internet somewhere, even if they're not on the same Wi-Fi network or they're not connected via Bluetooth, this all still happens. As long as the watch has Wi-Fi or LTE somewhere, then it's getting the same notifications as the phone. Of course, there's like a 1-second delay, but it still happens. I've played with that feature, and I think that's really cool. All right. I guess now's as good a time as any to bring up other tools. I was going to do fitness first, but I'm sort of a natural segue. So it's also got NFC. You can do Android Pay on the watch. Personally, that's not something that I really need. Lower this down a little bit. Yes, that's better. It's just, I mean, it's not a bad feature. It's just not something I ever use. LTE is also available, something that I wouldn't have gotten if I had gotten the Asus Zen watch. Frankly, the monthly plan is a little bit more money than I want to spend. Most carriers charge between $5 and $15 to add a wearable. And it's just not useful enough to justify that extra expense. Plus, the battery life of this is normally pretty good. If I leave the cellular connection off, then it gets through a normal day, including a gym workout, without a problem. The gym workout's pretty battery intensive. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if I leave LTE on, and I'm in a place where I have T-Mobile personally, and so I put a T-Mobile SIM in it to play with the LTE features. If I am in a place where signal is spotty, it really runs down the battery fast. I mean, not in 2 or 3 hours, but like in 6 or 7, the watch is close to dead. And then that was when I stopped doing that. So I wasn't crazy about that. I also use my phone, some of my friends may know, for sleep tracking. Basically, I have an app called Sleep as Android. Sort of bad English. But the thing that's nice about it is you put your phone on the bed, and it uses the phone's accelerometer to detect when you're in a deep sleep cycle or a light sleep cycle, and tries to wake you up during a light sleep cycle so that you can feel better waking up, like you feel like more refreshed and you have more energy if you wake up during a light sleep cycle. So that's great. But I've never been crazy about always having to lay the phone flat on my mattress somewhere near my body. Because you roll over on it or you knock it off, or maybe you just don't want to be exposed to all those wireless signals right next to your head all night. Or if you have a cat like me, then she'll knock it off. Point is, the watch has an accelerometer, and it's sensitive enough. Let me see if I can spell that right. Oh, I've already spelled it wrong, haven't I? Rometer. The watch has an accelerometer, and it's sensitive enough that the watch can be worn on your body, on your arm normally, and transmit that data to that application instead of the phone. And so the phone can sit on a bedside table or a desk or wherever else you would normally put your phone, and you can just track your sleep through the accelerometer. And the beautiful thing about that is if the watch is fully charged, I've tried this a few different nights, if the watch is fully charged, when you put it on, you start doing this, and you turn the screen off, because, I mean, why do you need the screen to be on while you're sleeping? Then it only depletes the battery about 20 to 30% over the night, which is a manageable, small enough amount that you can basically charge it back up to 100% while you're taking a shower and making breakfast and getting dressed for the day. And then you can strap it back on and it's at or close to 100% so it can power you through the day. Couple other features, just general things that I like. The watch has, I'm going to show you that it has a stopwatch, which I think is nice. It has a timer, and this is where this middle button, which rotates, really shines. The only other smartwatch that I know of that has a rotating button is the Apple Watch, and I think Google and LG did a really good job in replicating that functionality. I guess, to be fair, the Samsung Gear S2 and S3 both have a rotating bezel that also help you scroll. So this really shines because look at this. I don't have to touch the screen at all. I can, see the screen without one of my fat fingers being in the way. And then I set the timer. And if maybe I have to turn the screen off. Yeah, there it is. Then the timer is just going. It saves battery by not using the color. And it'll dim the background in a second. There it is. It shows me how many minutes I have left and the time. So that's really useful for me because my stove doesn't have a timer. So I need to, have a quick way to time when I'm baking something. And I love that. It's got a stopwatch, a couple other features like that, like an alarm clock that can be independent of the phone. Stuff you would expect a watch to have that you like pretty well. So now, last, and this is really the most important thing, is the fitness. The LG Watch Sport has a lot of fitness-related features that I'm going to try to do justice to. So, of course, it's a pedometer. It counts steps. You can see over here on the right that I've only done 339 today. I haven't been out and about very much yet, so that's why that hasn't happened. It has a GPS antenna, and this is a feature I would miss out on if I had purchased the Asus ZenWatch. So when you go out for a walk, and for the people I'm sending this video to, I'm going to send you an image of how it does it. It tracks your GPS location, and it tells you when you ran, or you biked, or you walked, where you went, and how many miles, and blah, blah, blah. And again, this is all, of course, stuff the smartphone can do, but you can leave your smartphone behind, wear something that's a lot lighter and more portable, and frankly, just comfortable to keep on your body, especially if you're running. With as big as smartphones are getting, then I think that that's a really nice feature to have. You also can track your heart rate, and when you tell it to initiate an exercise, I like to use it on a stationary bike. You can open Google Fit, which is their app and their stationary biking. Different stuff on here you can do. It tracks your heart rate pretty much continuously while you're doing these activities, so then at the end it can provide you like what was your peak, what was your average, and it can even show you a couple different things in real time. Let me see if I can get it to do it. Yeah, there it is. So on this one, it's showing me time, it's showing me duration and my pace. Obviously, I'm not running, but if I were, you'd see that. It can do calories. it can show you the distance you've traveled. Of course, it shows you your heart rate if you tell it to. So all this information it's collecting and gathering and mapping for you while you're just running or biking or whatever. The real thing where I was just like astounded by what it could do was strength training. I'm going to try to demonstrate that briefly if I can. It might be hard to simulate, but so you get in here and you tell it you're going to do strength training. Now what's crazy about this is its accelerometer tries to detect what you're doing. It doesn't even ask you to tell. So I'm going to do the bicep curl maneuver just since that's a pretty easy thing to do. I'm going to do it 5 times and I'm going to see if it can count it accurately. And you come back. Oh, it thought I was doing a tricep extension. So it's a similar motion. But if it was wrong, you can go in here and you can pick bicep curl. And then you can select the number of reps that you did if that was wrong. This is where that button really comes in handy because you know it's easier to scroll with it. And then you tell it how much weight you were doing. And then you save the set. Then it has an automatic rest timer, which you can change how much time it is. And so it's telling me like, okay, rest 30 seconds, then do your next set of bicep curls. And then I would. And so I love that at the gym. It keeps me focused, it keeps me on track, and it keeps me moving to the next activity quickly. I really like that. So this video's running kind of long. I'll wrap things up. So those are all the things that I really like about it. The strength training is amazing. I'm going to send you guys some screenshots of like a summary of my workout. The only things I really don't like are the size of the watch. I mean, it's not horrible, but you can see it's really tall on the wrist. I looked up the specs so I could give you the exact numbers. It is 14.2 millimeters. Or 0.56 inches. I should write that down. That's pretty thick. I mean, over half an inch. It hangs on there, and it's pretty heavy. For me, a man with, I don't know, I guess a medium-sized skeleton, it's comfortable. But I've seen lots of reviews where people say, hey, you know what, this is too big, this is too fat, I can't fit it on my arm, and I don't like it. And that's fair for them. The only other thing I'm not crazy about, I mean, the battery life is adequate. It could be better. I think it's 400 and some milliamp hours. I don't know offhand. But if you have the cellular turned on, the battery life is not adequate. And the other thing I'm not crazy about is the charger. So it's a wireless magnetic charger, and it only charges at 0.85 amps. So that's, sorry about that. That's less fast than most smartphone chargers that charge at 1 or 1.5 or 1 2/3 of an amp, or sometimes even 2. So, it's kind of slow. I mean, it takes an hour to hour and a half, which frankly I don't feel like it should take that long. With as small as the battery is, it's 420 some milliamp hours, I think. That's just not that big compared to most smartphone batteries. It shouldn't take an hour. It shouldn't take 60 to 90 minutes, but it does. I don't know. That's just sort of annoying. The other thing is that the magnet in this, the base is a little bit lighter than the watch, and the magnet that holds it in place is not super strong. So this is totally fine solution to charging if you're talking about a desk or a table like it's sitting on now, like my bedside tables where it normally charges, no problem at all. But if you're trying to charge this on the go, and a couple times I've tried to charge it in my car, you have to find like a level surface, because if you tilt it too far, then the watch starts to slide off. You have to, you know, check it every so often, or at least I felt like I had to make sure. Ooh, I'm sorry about that. That keeps happening. This is not really a great tripod that I've set up here. So, you know, you have to keep checking it and make sure that, you know, it hasn't slipped off when you hit a bump in the road or something like that. And just with the shape and the size and the bulk of this, trying to like charge this in your pocket or in a backpack or something like that would just be a total nightmare. So there you have it. Overall, very satisfied with this. The total cost after tax was $370. Yeah, that's right. And I really am glad that I bought it. I really love all the features, and I wear it every single day. But, you know, I mean, it's not perfect. The main things are the battery and the charging, especially if you're trying to use LTE. And so I leave it off all the time. I'm going to send a couple of pictures to show some of the stuff, like the workout summaries on my phone. And if you guys have any questions, of course, let me know. I'm sorry it ran over 21 minutes. I didn't think it would take this long to tell you everything.